Welcome back to our channel. We're down in our 520 square foot greenhouse build. It is a tunnel, but we are putting 2 layers on this in order to get us through the winter time. And that brings me to today's topic. We are talking about all of our plants and what kind of plants we can grow all winter, and the fact that last night we had 15 degrees for an overnight temperature, which we're shocked that everything in here has survived. We wanted to come down here this morning and check on all of our plants and all of our sprouts and everything that's been growing. And I wanted to talk about our winter planting schedule. We have been planting for every 2 weeks almost since we've put this first layer of poly on our greenhouse here. So every 2 weeks we've came down and planted new sprouts. When we first planted, it was pretty dry and hot because it was still warm outside. Now that the temperatures are very cold on us, all of these plants are slowly coming up and the sun is not nearly as potent as it was when we first put this poly on. So we're able to retain much more water in our soil and we have to water much less. And we're having a pretty good success rate on all of our plants sprouting in here. I want to talk about planting variety. We have at least 25 to 30 varieties of plants growing in this greenhouse right now, ensuring that we are spreading our risk over many different crops. And we're spreading those risks from pests and cold over all of those crops. So if one crop fails, we may have success on another crop, and we're guaranteed to have some type of harvest. Now, planting a variety of crops ensures you have a variety of minerals, nutrients, and vitamins, and you have some diversity on food that you can eat and different ways you can seek nutrition during the winter time. And while we're talking about planting a variety of crops, we plant leeks and onions, chives. Any member of the onion family will repel lots of pests from your greenhouse and from your crops. We've intercropped our onion family and sown seeds amongst all of these plants and intercropped them with everything in this greenhouse. Now in the winter time here in northern Illinois, we have minimal light, about 8 hours at the most, and most of the time it's cloudy. So all of our plant choices are based off of that. Cold hardy and low light. We are not able to grow any fruiting vegetables or anything like that, but we are able to grow enough food that we can eat off of this greenhouse all winter long. Now I want to give a little tour of our greenhouse and all of the plants we have growing to give everybody an idea themselves for what they can grow during winter and what will stay alive. Gonna start down on the southern side of our greenhouse here. We started with an absolute ton of turnips to break this whole bed up, and I've been leaving these turnips to get a harvest out of them. And the greens from these turnips are edible also, and they are good for you. So these are all just regular globe top turnips. They will get a big fat bulb of turnip down there and they will break that soil up very well. We kind of mulched this up and we had planted some 7 top turnips. They really don't get a big bulb on them, but they produce a lot of leafy greens that are good to eat and they are nutritious for us. This is a rest of our turnip bed here. We had planted a ton of dark red beets in this bed in order to eat the tops of those. We've been harvesting dozens of radishes out of here left and right. We've got tons and tons of these French radishes, a bunch of cherry bell radishes. We had sown a bunch of red salad bowl lettuce in this little kind of swale we've created here. This system works for us very well. The swale got all of these to sprout. This whole western bed here is all basically just lettuce and leeks, and we've sown some radishes in there to help break the soil up. We had very slow growth on this whole bed because this was the most sunniest part of the greenhouse when we first set this up. So all of this got baked in the sun and did not have good germination, but now that it's colder, everything's coming up pretty nicely for us. We've got some of our Ford Hook Swiss chard we transplanted in here. We've got some of our perpetual spinach Swiss chard planted up in here. That should be a good producer for us. That will last all winter. We've got all our sorrel, peas. We had taken all of our radishes that popped up in here and kind of mulched them in, and we planted several different kinds of lettuce amongst all these radishes for a nice, good, plentiful harvest. And right down here we had sown this little gully of collard greens. We threw a bunch of rapini broccoli, This is some of our red kale coming up. Everything's just packed in. A ton of spinach sprouts coming up. Our first and second round of spinaches. This is about the 4th time that we've came out here and done a mass sowing of seeds throughout all of the beds. We are just basically coming through and filling in all of the little spaces that weren't filled in, and we were using our radishes for breaking up the soil in order to get a good harvest off of the next crop that went in there, so the seeds would penetrate the soil properly. So even on a very overcast, cold, cloudy day, we're able to get some water flow through this heating system, although it's probably only about 40-degree water from what my thermometer says. We're still able to catch some solar rays and use this system. It's just not as effective as on a sunny day. So I was super shocked to see that everything was still alive and doing well in here after a 15-degree overnight temp, and we had about 15 to 20 mile an hour winds. So having a greenhouse is an absolute necessity if you want to have healthy food to eat that you don't have to buy at the store and wonder about where it came from or what's been sprayed on it. I want to thank everybody for following our journey to self-sufficiency. We're just getting started. This is our first large greenhouse. I want to build a solid frame greenhouse next for winter time also, so that'll be next year's project. And everybody stay tuned for the next layer of this greenhouse. We will be putting our cattle panels on this weekend, and I want to share the whole process of putting our cattle panels over the second layer and then securing our second layer of poly.